Welcome to Girl Read Your Bible, Sunday School for adults who missed it. I'm Nicole Waltz, your host for this podcast, brought to you by 522gals.com, a website dedicated to personal development and spiritual growth. Go and check it out. And please take a moment, do me a favor, and hit subscribe wherever you are listening to or / watching this podcast. That really helps us to grow our audience and reach more people so that everyone can become who they were created to be, so that we can learn from the people who really lived, and stories are so incredible they made it in the Bible and have value for us even today. Speaking of, we are talking about an extraordinary woman of faith who isn't completely unexpected. This is not someone, when you hear her story, you will totally get it. This is not someone that you would immediately expect me to call an extraordinary woman of faith based on her background. But that's why we're going to get so much out of her story today, because it is not about your past, it is about your future. And we have got to give people grace to grow. If we don't give people grace to change, what are we even doing? What are we even doing? What do we even call ourselves? Giving people grace to grow is everything. And we're going to see that today in the story of Rahab the prostitute. Rahab's story is found in Joshua chapter 2. And let me just take a minute to set up the background, set up the stage for you. Joshua is the successor to Moses. He was Moses' right hand. Moses was with him and the whole people, the Hebrew people, wandering the desert, making their journey to the promised land for 40 years. They wandered. And mind you that journey is only supposed to take 2 weeks, physically, literally, less than 2 weeks if you're making a direct beeline. But it took them 40 years because God had to work in their hearts. They had so much growth that needed to happen. They were a struggling people. And we will get to an entire season, I'm sure, of the life and journey of Moses, because there is a lot to know and take away from that story. But I just wanted to set the stage for you because we are just past that, where Moses has passed away and Joshua is now the leader of the people. And they are very close. They are at the door. They are right there at the promised land. But there are things still in their way. And there's a few more things that really need to happen before they can claim the promised land that God has promised them for generations. This promise first went out to Abraham. We talked about that many episodes ago. So I just want you to have a good foundation of where we're at, because it is going to help us get so much more out of it if we know where we're going. In any case, we are in Joshua chapter 2, and we are talking about the story of Rahab. Now, the people are, Joshua is sending in this 2 spies to go and scout out the town and the area so that they can assess and strategize what needs to happen, what dangers are ahead of them, so that they can continue to conquer until they get to this land. They would just bypass and set up, like that's the way it could go down, but it never does. It always leads to war at this time in culture and history. And even today, we often see this kind of thing play out. But in any case, they're trying to assess what to do next. And the city of Jericho is right in the way. It is the next place on the map that we're headed. And the Israelite people, the Hebrew people, you'll hear all the Hebrew, Jewish, and Israelite, those are all 3 interchangeable. It's the same scenario. So just in case you hear me use all of them, you don't get confused. I tend to go in and out. They all mean the same thing. In any case, they're headed to Jericho next, and they are saved by a woman named Rahab. And she is an unlikely person, as she is always called Rahab the prostitute. That's her title. Almost like the prostitute is her last name. So in any case, we're going to start with her story and learn a lot about giving people grace to grow and seeing real change in people's lives. And Rahab is an amazing example that we're going to get a lot out of. So let's get started in Joshua chapter 2. We're starting at verse 1. Then Joshua secretly sent out 2 spies from the Israelite camp He instructed them, scout out the land on the other side of the Jordan River, especially around Jericho. So the two men set out and came to the house of a prostitute named Rahab, and they stayed there the night. But someone told the king of Jericho that some Israelites had come here tonight to spy out the land, so the king of Jericho sent orders to Rahab. Bring out the men who have come into your house, for they have come here to spy out the whole land. Rahab had hidden the two men, but she told the king, she replied, yes, the men were here earlier, but I didn't know where they were from. They left the town at dusk as the city gates were about to close. I don't know where they went. If you hurry, you can probably catch up with them. But actually, she had taken them up on the roof and hidden them beneath bundles of flax that she had laid out. So the king's men went looking for the spies along the road leading to the shallow crossing of the Jordan River. And as the king's men had left, the gate of Jericho was now shut. So now since the gate is shut, they actually couldn't leave. So they had to end up staying the night. But she protected them. We're going to talk about this for a second. It was, first of all, it would have been a common place to stop. This is a common profession in this culture and time in history that Rahab has here. And she would have been a woman who knew what was going on. But more so, it's clear that she welcomed them into her home. She has, in fact, lied right now to the king that she doesn't know that she didn't know who they were. She totally knew who they were. And she knew enough to hide them and protect them. And that's an incredible feat because there's a lot going on. Hold on. I'll keep reading and then we'll keep talking. But it's cool that she says, oh, no, they left. But if you hurry, you might be able to catch them. I mean, that's shrewd. That's clever. She not only said, oh, I didn't know who they were. They were here, but I sent them on their way so that you could probably catch up with them. Now she's sending them on a wild goose chase because she actually has the two spies up hiding on her roof, and she's hidden them and covered them up so that they're well protected. And meanwhile, sent the people looking for them in the other direction, sent them far away, sent them on a wild goose chase. So that was really clever on her part. And it just shows, how wisdom is a really valuable gift that she's utilizing here. Now we're on verse 8. Before the spies went to sleep that night, Rahab went up to the roof to talk with them. And she says some powerful stuff. Let's hear her direct quotes. This is so good. I know the Lord has given you this land. That's telling you something right there, friends. She told them, we are all afraid of you. Everyone in the land is living in terror. For we have heard how the Lord made a dry path for you through the Red Sea when you left Egypt. And we know what you did to the two Amorite kings east of the Jordan River, whose people you completely destroyed. No wonder our hearts have melted with fear. No one has the courage to fight after hearing such things, for the Lord your God is the supreme God of the heavens above and the earth below. Let's talk about that for a second. Know that the spies are there to scout out the danger ahead of them. They are there to see what challenge and obstacle and come up with some sort of war strategy to get around or to get through Jericho. And meanwhile, not even realizing, not even remembering who their God is and how he has taken care of them and that they do not need to worry so much. Here's the people on the other side. Here's Rahab. Mind you, she's on the other, she's not part of the Israelite people. She doesn't hold the promise of God. She's seen and heard what's happened and has stronger faith than the two men hiding on a roof. Think about that for a minute. She's like giving them a Bible lesson. She doesn't mean to be, but she clearly is. She's calling them out. She's saying, we have heard. We know your God. Everyone here is terrified because we have all heard the stories. And like I told you, friends, it took 40 years of wandering in the desert. That means it's roughly 40 years because we still have a little time ahead of us, but we're close. So maybe, I don't know where we're at, 38, 39. We're really close. So they crossed the Red Sea roughly 40 years ago. And she's recalling the story of this great thing the Lord supreme God that they serve has done for them. And that leaves their people terrified. They know that the people with a real true God is coming for them, coming for this land. They know it's their land. They know it was promised to them. And the wrong people here are sitting on it, right? Like they're aware that they have built a town in the wrong place and that the supreme God of the universe and his people are on the way, and they are living in fear and terrified because they realize how powerful God is. But Rahab, she's smart. First of all, she's telling them, we know. I just think that that's incredible, right? That it's been 40 years. This is an old miracle. It was a miracle that happened 40 years ago, and yet it's still very relevant to the people of Jericho, which is the city that they're in, by the way. It's relevant to her and to all the people. She's saying, we're all terrified. We all know that this happened. Meanwhile, the people that it happened for, that God actually did it for, the Israelite people, they're not even seeing the awe in it, right? Like they're not like, yeah, God will take care of this. He parted the Red Sea. We've got no problems ahead of us. We know that God will take care of us. That's where God wants them to get to. And us, right? Like know that God did these incredible things in your life and he will continue to do incredible things and you don't have to strategize and worry so much. Side note, friends, that was for me today. I'm still trying to learn that. That is an incredible accomplishment of faith to really get to that point where you do not worry and you know that God literally will take care of it. Rahab already has that kind of faith, and she hasn't even really adopted this belonging to this faith. She's just aware. She's like, you know what? I've heard the stories, and your God is the supreme God. And we know that we are sitting on your land, and we are all terrified. I mean, think about how the spies must have felt receiving that information. Like, oh, that's right. Oh, thanks for the reminder. We serve this incredible God who has taken care of all. You guys are afraid of us. Oh, we were afraid of you. Okay, now we're seeing the bigger picture. She was smart, she was savvy, and she protected them. And now she's going to use that to her advantage. She's going to ask for something, friends. Let's keep reading. Now, we're on verse 12, by the way. Now swear to me by the Lord that you will be kind to me and my family, since I have helped you. Give me some guarantee that when Jericho is conquered, when, not if, when, incredible, extraordinary faith. She already knew it was going to happen. When Jericho is conquered, you will let me live along with my father and mother and brothers and sisters and all of their families. We offer you our own lives as a guarantee for your safety, the men agreed. If you don't betray us, we will keep our promise and we will be kind to you when the Lord gives us this land. Then, since Rahab's house was built in the town wall, she let them down by a rope through the window. This would be a scarlet rope, and that is very significant and important. In many versions, it specifically calls it a scarlet rope, and there is a spiritual significance to that. We'll keep reading at verse 16. Escape to the hill country, she told them. Hide there for 3 days from the men searching for you. Then, when you have returned, when they have returned, you can go on your way. Before they left, the men told her, we will be bound by our oath, by the oath that we have taken, only if you follow these instructions. When we come into the land, you must leave this scarlet rope hanging from the window through which you have let us down. And all of your family members, your father, mother, brothers, sisters, and all your relatives must be here inside the house. If they go out into the streets and are killed, it won't be our fault. But if anyone lays a hand on the people inside this house, we all will accept responsibility for their death. If you betray us, however, we're not bound by this oath. I accept your terms, she replied. And she sent them on their way, leaving the scarlet rope hanging from the window. So that scarlet rope was used to later to identify that whose house had rescued them and saved them and given them protection, so that when the battle comes, this is the protected house. It was like the sign for the people to know about, for the people fighting to know about. So skipping ahead, they did exactly what she told them to do. And then they go and they report to Joshua all that had happened. And verse 24, being the last verse of the chapter, the Lord has given us the whole land, they're reporting to Joshua. For all the people of the land are terrified of us. And they're just like happy to give this report and realize what an incredible awareness that the people who live there have of God. I have to take a minute, though, to point out the difference between the people there and specifically Rahab. Because here she's saying, we're all terrified of you. We all know that your God is strong and powerful and has done these incredible things. And she's saying, I know your God and I want you to protect me. I know your God is the real God. I'm asking for that. It's not just that protection. She's going to end up being part of their, like going with them, being part of their community and part of their, she's going to go with them as a foreigner in their lands. She's going to be part of the Israelite people, and she's going to play a very significant role, as a matter of fact. But she's taking this opportunity to say, I want to be part with you. I know that your God is the most powerful, and I want to, spare me. I'm asking for favor, and I'm saying I want to be part of what's happening here. Where all the other people were just afraid, and they just kept their distance. And they were afraid to fight, but ultimately are like feeling like that's what's coming. There is a way that they could have handled this differently. They knew the Israelites were nearby, right? And they're all sitting in terror. Their king could have sent out people that said, we want to join up with you. We want to be a part of what you're doing here. We also want to serve the one true God. They could have done it differently. They could have made a treaty. Instead, they just sat in their fear and didn't progress, didn't act on it. Rahab acts on her faith. She doesn't just acknowledge and know that God is the supreme God. She recognizes the power of this Israelite God, that she's like, wait a minute, I think I want to try to be a part of this somehow. So she puts action behind her faith. She puts wisdom behind her faith. No two friends that she risked her life saving them. She risked her life hiding them. Because if the king had found out that they were actually there and had caught them or, anything different like that had happened, she would have been put to death as well. She would have, that would have gone really badly for her. It was literally risking her life to protect them. She totally could have handed them over, tried to win favor with her own king. There's a million ways that could have played out. All negatives. She recognized the one true God and wanted to be a part of what was happening there and also use that, used her efforts to save not only herself, but her entire family and anyone that would be in the house with her. And just to paint you a little picture there, because it will, because it helps to have a visual. The wall, when they talk about the wall around Jericho, the wall around city, a lot of cities were like this. The city wall isn't like a foot deep or, 5 feet deep or something. It's not like this sturdy, solidified wall to keep people out. It was actually housing. It was a very dense, several feet deep, so that people could live in the wall. That's really good, smart construction, good use of space, because that's making the wall so much thicker and so much more useful. It's not just wasted block. It's actually used for more than just a fortifying way to shield your city. It's also used to actually house your people. And so that was really a smart thing to do. And Rahab, being a prostitute, would have been a prime location for her also. Knowing that, as we're saying that, this was a very common profession of the day, and she would have had a lot of insight, which is probably why the spies went to her, is that she would have known a lot of people and heard all the gossip and known what was going on and those types of things. She'd have been a very well-informed person in the city. And so that was made her a smart choice to go to for information. And so that's part of the reason that I believe they end up at her place, but also because I think she welcomes them in because she's looking for a way to save herself and her family. And she finds it with helping them. So it was an incredibly smart decision. Her story is not over though. So we are going to move ahead several chapters, because then there's a lot more going on in Israel and with Joshua and the extra people and crossing the Jordan and the Ark of the Covenant. There's all kinds of other things going on, but we are going to skip ahead to Joshua chapter 6, and we're going to go down to verse 15 because we want to get to the next part. Sorry, my pages are a little stuck together here. The next part of her story. And it says, we're going to start in verse 15. I'm going to summarize this part for you, actually. Please read that for yourself. It's a strange command that God gives Joshua and the people. They march around the city every day for 6 days. And then on the seventh day, they march around the city 7 times. And on the seventh time, they blast their horns and they shout praise to the Lord. And it says, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. And so they do this, and then everything in the city will be destroyed, and the walls of Jericho will literally fall down. And that is an incredible story. Joshua won the Battle of Jericho. If you were in Sunday school, you heard that one. I'm not talking, I know this, I'm like intertwining the stories today. He's not my main character today. So we will talk about that because that's an incredible story of courage and following what seems silly instructions. So there's like a lot to take away from Joshua's story. However, we're sticking with Rahab here. I just want you to kind of know what's also happening. We've got two things, two main characters kind of intertwining through this part of the Bible. But when that happens and the walls do fall down, only Rahab, we're in verse 17, only Rahab the prostitute and the others in her house will be spared, for she protected the spies. And then he gives them instructions about not taking any of the things that are set apart. Everything is sacred and must be brought into the Lord's treasury. Don't steal stuff for yourself. And there's all these instructions about what to do with all the stuff. We're going to go down the spoils of war. I said stuff. I mean spoils of war. We're going to verse 22. Meanwhile, Joshua said to the 2 spies, "Keep your promise. Go to the prostitute's house and bring her out along with all her family." The men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab, her father, her mother, her brothers, and all of her relatives who were with her. They moved her whole family to a safe place near the camp of Israel. And that's the, then we're going to skip ahead a little bit. We're going to go down again to Joshua. So that's how, verse 25. So Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute and all her relatives who lived in the house, and because she had hidden the spies Joshua had sent to Jericho. And she lives among the Israelites to this day. So this is her story of how she got to be part of the Israelite people. She's still a foreigner in the land, but eventually she gets married to an Israelite. And she follows them fully in faith. And we don't know all the details of her life after this, but we know that she gave glory and honor to God and was an incredible woman of faith. And Rahab and her husband have a child, who have a child. And eventually that child is King David. Lineage-wise, we're going down a few children. I know it. I don't know it off the top of my head. But we have, she's going to be like the great-great-grandma, maybe great-great-great-grandma, I don't know, of King David. And you know what comes from King David's line? David's line goes great, very many lines until it gets to Jesus. And we can see in the book of Matthew that Rahab the prostitute, specifically her name as a woman, is listed in the genealogy of Jesus. He's listed, or she's listed in the genealogy. Matthew lists her, names her, Rahab the prostitute, but they still always call her that. So let's talk about some things here, because we've got to give Rahab some tremendous credit. She's living her life doing a profession that is frowned upon. Even in those days, even when it was like accepted and common, it was still like, it wasn't a mystery that this was like not a great profession, that this was still looked down on. It still had like, it was still, even though it was acceptable, it was still like a bad idea. It was still like not a preferred profession. We'll put it like that. Even though it's like socially acceptable and they knew about it and people did it and it happened all over, like it was still not like respected profession. We'll put it like that. She still had a stigma to her. She had a past. She had a history. They could have been appalled by her. They could have said, we're not sparing her. This woman is ripe with sin. She's all this sexual immorality and blah, blah. But they didn't write her off as invaluable because of her past experiences or past career or past bad choices. Think about for yourself. Think about someone you know. How many of us have written people off because of things that they have done in their past? I'm seeing even a lot of things, on social media and that, attacking well-known people or respected people, celebrities, church people, politicians, whatever. And they're not this, they're not really Christian. They're not really believers because they did this and this and this and they have this in their history. And friends, if we're not going to give people room to grow, what are we even doing? Lord knows I have a long list of mistakes, errors, sins, flaws in my past. So do you. I 100% know. So do the people around you. You have got to give people grace to grow. And you know what? We've got to give ourselves grace to grow too. Rahab did not say, oh, well, I can't be used. I can't be saved. I can't be spared. I can't help anybody because of what I do, because of the past I've had, because of the life choices that I've made. No, she didn't even think about those things. I acknowledged and identified God in a stronger and more powerful way than the chosen people standing in front of her. She is an incredible example of what genuine faith looks like and laid all that back. It was like, I don't care. I mean, she moved on and moved on well because we know that she got married and then ends up being, an ancestral person in the line of King David and of Jesus. So she's a big deal, right? That is a beautiful, beautiful example that God gives us of redemption. She wasn't just spared, she was qualified. She was qualified to be in the bloodline of Jesus. Guys, we've got to stop holding people responsible for their past. I'm not saying that it doesn't come without consequences, right? We make choices. They have consequences in our lives. They shift and alter the path and direction of our lives. There is consequences in this life that come from the mistakes and choices you've made. However, we have got to believe that people can change. Why? Because I want to change. I want to grow. I want to be better. I want you to be better. You want to be better. I know you do. That's why you're listening. So if we want that for ourselves, if we want that for our own growth and we want to know that that's true. But people that we love, that we see making mistakes and messing up and being in a dark, hard place or whatever, we want better for them. We want better for our own lives. You have got to believe through everything that you read. Girl, read your Bible and know that it changes lives. People have the ability to change, and they could probably do a better job of it if we stopped holding their past over their heads. Stopped, focusing on the past. We either believe this thing or we don't. You either believe that you're a new creation in Christ or you don't. That doesn't mean you're not. That doesn't mean the things that have happened that it's collectively made up the person that you are in this life just disappears. Okay? It just means that you have the grace to grow and to do better and to be better. Stop saying, oh, somebody had an affair 27 years ago, so they could never be a good person now. What? That's the opposite of what we believe. That's not how faith works at all. And we see that in the story of Rahab. Lord knows if they hadn't given her grace to grow. Good grief, people. She's in the line of Jesus. God is showing us a beautiful example and picture of just how clean he's wiped that slate. Just how beautiful and powerful the redemption really is. Incredible. And we see, I gotta give you two more scriptures, because we see Rahab referenced even in the New Testament. Her story transcends. Her story carries out throughout time. There's a lot of stories that we read in the Bible, but we don't see them always re-mentioned there in the New Testament. Many are, but not all the ones that we cover. Rahab even gets honorable mention 2 other times in the New Testament. So if you will, turn with me to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 31. And it says, "It was by faith that Rahab the prostitute was not destroyed with her people in her city, who refused to obey God, for she had given a friendly welcome to the spies." I mean, read this whole chapter. Chapter 11 of Hebrews is incredible, and it is talking a lot about faith and the kingdom and the belief in God. This is a wonderful. I'm encouraging you, in addition to rereading the story of Rahab, because that's the goal here, is that you're rereading the story for yourself that I have gone over with you, because I want you to know it and own it for yourself. Read Hebrews chapter 11. Short, quick read, but man, it's going to have a lot of good stuff about people of faith. Be encouraged, friends. It is your actions that back up your faith, not the mistakes that you've made in your past. Rahab knew that these people were God's people, and she wanted to partner with God and protect them. She took actual action. She took actual risk of her own life. She went out of her comfort zone to protect these people, and then went a step further and asked them for something. She didn't just assume. She wasn't that laid back, just like, oh, well, I hope you'll have mercy. Let's see what they do. No, she asked for what she wanted. Ask for what you want, because you have faith in God and you know that he is looking out for you in your best interest. We have so much more access through Jesus than Rahab ever had. We have so much more in front of us that God wants to share and give through us if we can just grow in our faith. I hope that the story of Rahab is really encouraging you today, because I know it is encouraging me. She's referenced one more time in the New Testament that I know of. It's in James chapter 2, verse 25. So we're going to turn there real quick and read that verse as well. And James tells us in verse 25, Rahab the prostitute is another example. She was shown to be right with God by her actions when she hid those messengers and sent them safely away by a different road. Just as the body is dead without breath, so also faith is dead without good works. It is important to put your faith into action. You can't just say you have faith. You can't just say you believe. You better look like it. You better be taking steps to actually prove that you're a person of faith. And you know what? God has incredible grace for us. He knows that it takes a while to grow. He has so much patience for us. We should be extending that same kind of grace and patience to one another. But God is constantly just giving us a lot more grace than we could possibly deserve. And knowing that it takes us time to grow and get there. And he's so patient with us. Extend that patience and love to the people around you. Extend that patience and love and trust and hope and faith that they are going to grow and change to the people in your life. And start looking for ways to see people through God's eyes. What is their potential? What are they capable of? Look at where they're at. Look at where they've been and see that there's like a growth. See that there's been a little bit of movement, right? See that there's been some growth, and just keep praying for a jump, another jump of growth. I'm trying to figure out how to say it. For more growth for myself, for my family, for the people I love, for the people in positions of power. Lord knows they need it. You got to be praying for these people and believing that they are going to change and grow and start extending some grace. Why? Because I'm pretty sure the biggest, most important rule that we got here is treat other people the way you want to be treated. Do unto others as you would have them do to you. That's red stuff, friends. That's the words of Jesus. It is the most important rule I think that we can live by. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. And you want to be treated with grace. You want people to give you another chance. You want to see patience, right? For other people have patience and grace for you. Have grace and patience for them and for yourself. You know, Jesus told us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And I think one of the big challenges that we see in the world is people don't truly love themselves well. And so then they don't love other people well. And it's all things we got to work on. And we can do that a little bit better by giving ourselves grace and by working on growing our faith. Now let's talk about an actionable step really quick for your journaling this week, because I think this is really going to help you. When you are sitting down and journaling this week, I want you to write at least 3, maybe more, hopefully more, but really look back over your life and write 3 different ways that you have seen God show up in your life, that you 100% know that this was the favor, blessing, protection, intervention of God, somewhere where you've seen him before in your life, 3 different areas, 3 different times. Because remembering those things, remembering the times that God answered your prayers, having that recall, reflecting on that really helps us grow our faith. Because you can see that he's done it before. You could write 3 times where he showed up for you, and then 3 times where you've seen him show up for someone else too. So like showed up for someone else doesn't take away from you, it adds to you, right? You can see God's power and grace working all around you in other people's lives and in your own. And that is going to help us grow our faith. Why did Rahab have faith? Because she saw the actions of God. We are terrified because we know that your God rescued you from Egypt and parted the Red Sea, albeit 40 years ago, but we still know about it, and we still know, and that has made us very aware that you serve the one true God of the universe, that he is all powerful and will protect you, and he is going to give you this land because this is your land and we're just sitting on it. We're not really even supposed to be here, and we know it, right? I mean, that's strong faith. She saw through the acts that God did for someone else, knew that that was happening, and then looked for that and said, I want that. I want to serve a God like that. I want to be part of that community. I want to be part of God's people because I acknowledge how amazing God is, and I'm going to take actions and steps to get there. I mean, her story is very powerful to me. True faith comes from action and comes from remembrance, recognition, right? She's recognizing the miracles that she had seen and heard. I mean, she wasn't even there for it, right? She just heard about it. That's so incredible. I mean, think about this with me, girls. Come on. So that's your assignment for the week. Read Hebrews chapter 11 and write down at least 3 things, times, situations where that's going to help build your faith. Things that you've seen God do in your life. And for bonus points, 3 other things that you've seen God do in the lives of someone else. Because acknowledging that God shows up is only going to help grow your faith so that he will keep showing up and you can keep your heart positioned towards him. I hope that you enjoyed learning the story of Rahab, and I hope that helps inspire you to extend more grace for growth to yourself and to everyone around you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and until next time, girl, read your Bible.